All right, so if you are a person who serves participants, multiple participants in a group setting within the comprehensive or supports waiver, the rest of this video is for you, okay? This is a smaller segment, so if you do not provide group service, this does not apply to you. If you provide group service in addition to individual or only group service, this next section is for you. So clocking in for group service looks mostly the same in CellTrack. There are a couple key differences that I just want to point out. So it's really clear to you how you can clock in for more than one participant at a time. So when you open up the CellTrack app, you'll notice you can tap clock in, or you might see something called My Activities. And to get to clock in, you would tap as View All and see clock in from there. Right? You don't have scheduled, we don't know your scheduled shifts or activities. That's between you and your employer. So you would tap View All and tap Clock In. So of course you have to log in first and then clock in. From there, because under the group service, you can provide individual or group. When you're providing group, you want to tap Group Service. Okay? So individual service, working with one participant at a time. Group service, working with two or more participants at a time. Then you're going to tap that blue arrow to advance to the next screen. Then you'll select the participant you're providing services to and the service type. And the service type, only the eligible services you're able to provide will appear. You advance to the next screen. So once you've selected that participant, the service type, you can tap Start to clock in, and you have clocked in. So this is where something might look a little different. You might have noticed, hey, wait a minute, I see a pause button here. And so the top right corner of the second screenshot, there's a pause button. What does that mean? Well, that's what's going to allow you to switch between screens to clock in for another participant. So of course, you know, with this example, Mary, I can add my tasks now, or I can do it later. But let's, you know, we just clocked in for Mary, let's clock in for somebody else. So to do that, to clock in for another participant, the employee must pause the first shift. I know that seems counterintuitive. A pause typically means we're stopping time, but time will continue in the background. The pause button does not stop time recording. It simply allows the employee to switch between screens to clock in for another participant at the same time. So it just allows you to switch between screens, because normally you can't go back to the home screen when you're clocked in for a shift. So you would tap pause and you would tap clock in. And things look familiar from there, right? We select who, are we doing group service again? Yes. Who is the participant we're providing services to? We just clocked in for Mary Jones, so let's clock in for Mark. What is the service that's being provided? And then tap Start. And then it looks familiar again. We've clocked in for the second participant. So I can add my tasks now. I could add them later. If I need to add in or clock in for a third person, I would tap pause again, tap clock in, and clock in for the third participant. So if I'm ready to clock out for Mark Smith and I'm still on that screen, I would tap End Shift. But let's learn, right? So let's say I want to clock out, not from Mark, but from Mary. And so I would tap that pause button, and I'd be able to select the person from the list here that I want to clock out for or enter my tasks for. So I just tap anywhere in their line, you know, Mark Smith, I would tap Finish or Resume. Both will take me to the next screen. So I want to clock out, I'm going to tap the person I want to clock out for and tap Finish or Resume. Either will take you there. If you've not yet already, you do need to enter those tasks. So I tap Wyoming Tasks. I tap it one more time and I select the tasks that I provided. Right, so I tap the boxes next to the one to select the tasks. And now it shows green next to Wyoming Tasks. So I can go back. So I tap the arrows at the bottom to advance. So now that I've selected tasks, it shows finished in green. So if I'm not ready to clock out, I would pause and I could go to Mary to clock out or do her tasks. But we're ready. We're done for the day. Let's clock out from Mark. Okay, we're going to press End Shift. And everything from here looks the same, right? Do you need to adjust time? If so, start and or end time. Who is available to sign off? The employee always signs off on their shift. And the employer would sign off if everything looks correct, or if they're not available, or it does not look correct, or if they're not available, they would not sign off because they're not there. And the employee would confirm by pressing the check mark and answering the question, are you sure you want to finish this activity? So everything looks the same. The difference is how you switch between participants, this pause button. So let's just review that one more time. How do you switch between participants? Right? I'm clocked in for 2 people at once. Time is continuing to be tracked even though it says paused. Again, pause just lets you switch between screens. So I'd tap the name of the person that I want to finish and clock out for. So I would tap on Mark's name. I could press finish or resume. And if I have not yet put in my tasks, I'd be prompted to do so. And everything from there mirrors what you're used to seeing with individual service that we've covered already. Now, we do have a guide that specifically covers group service that walks you through step-by-step what we just discussed. If you use IVR or you're an Android user, everything I'm about to say you can disregard. If you are an Apple user and you happen to go offline during group service, so you lose service during group service. Okay? For the short term until January 2021, you are not able, while offline on an Apple device, you're unable to clock in for multiple people at once. So what do you need to do? What is the special procedure? You clock in one at a time for the participants, and on that finish visit screen, you would adjust the time. So if you started with Mark and Mary, both at 12:45, right? Well, I can only clock in for one if I'm offline and happen to be using an Apple. So I'd clock in for Mark, clock out when I'm done. And then for Mary, I'd clock in and clock out, and I'd adjust the time to reflect the shift hours that were worked. So you can always edit or adjust that to reflect the time worked. And this is only for temporary. Come January, that'll be not a problem. And it's only for Apple users who happen to go offline during group service. Okay? If you use Android, if you use Apple and you don't go offline, it's not a problem. Group service can also work with IVR. You would just place the amount of calls to clock in for the amount of people you need to. So if I need to, start a shift with Mark, I'd call the IVR, clock in for Mark, and then continue and clock in for Mary as well.